The stars above Earth were calm that night. Too calm, some would say. Humanity had grown comfortable, believing that the universe was vast but distant, that alien life existed only in dreams and old stories. Ships orbited silently, satellites glimmered like fireflies, and the blue planet spun peacefully. But in the darkness beyond the moon, something ancient stirred. A ship unlike anything humans had ever seen, moved with silent purpose. Its hull shimmered with colors no one could name, bending light in ways that made it almost invisible. And within that ship, a being watched Earth, her eyes as deep and cold as distant galaxies. She remembered the debt centuries ago. Humanity, young, fragile, and untested, had done something that saved her species. The details were lost to time, the names long forgotten, but the gratitude remained. And now she had come to repay it, not with words, not with gold or technology, but with something far more precious, her daughters. Her daughters were not ordinary beings. They were the culmination of her people's knowledge, genetics, and combat wisdom. Each one had been trained to survive and to fight in ways that could bend reality itself. They were fierce, fearless, and untamed, and she intended to entrust them to humanity, a species she had once saved, and one she knew would need them in ways even she could not predict. The first time she appeared in orbit over Earth, there was no fanfare, no warning. A massive shadow passed across the moon, and then the sky above the major cities glowed with a soft golden light. People stopped in the streets, staring up, mouths open, eyes wide. Governments scrambled. Military satellites locked onto the intruder. And in every home, children whispered in awe, "What is that?" Inside the ship, the alien mother observed it all. She did not move quickly. There was no need. Humanity had always been slow to understand the universe's larger rhythms. She would give them time. She always did. Patience was part of her species' nature, and she would watch to see if they were worthy of the gift they were about to receive. On Earth, speculation ran wild. Was it a probe, a weapon, or a first contact mission? Scientists and politicians argued, but no one could get close. Every drone sent toward the ship vanished in a flash of blinding light, leaving only static on their cameras. The world waited, tense and uncertain, caught between fear and fascination. Then, without warning, the first of her daughters appeared. She emerged not with a ship landing or a loud announcement, but as a figure in the sky itself. Her form glowed faintly like starlight given shape, her eyes burning with intelligence and power. She hovered, silent, above one of Earth's oceans, and in that moment, humanity understood something simple but terrifying. These were not beings to be underestimated. The world watched as more appeared, each different, each unique, yet all undeniably related. Their movements were graceful, precise, and strangely familiar, as if some deep memory whispered within the human mind, calling recognition without explanation. People fell to their knees, some in awe, some in fear, unsure how to react to beings who seemed more myth than reality. And then, the mother spoke, not through sound, not through language, but directly into the minds of every human capable of receiving it. A thought clear and undeniable: "I owe you a debt, and I will repay it." The message was simple, but its weight was heavy. What debt could a being from the stars possibly owe humanity? And why give them her daughters, beings of immense power trained for war and survival? Questions surged through human minds faster than words could form. Yet even in confusion, there was no denying the awe that filled the hearts of those who listened. As days passed, the alien mother remained in orbit, letting the daughters descend to the surface in small groups. The first contact with local authorities was tense. Militaries pointed weapons, but the daughters moved with such precision and calm that no one dared strike. They did not speak at first. They only observed, learning, analyzing, understanding. It was clear they were not here to destroy, but they were dangerous, capable of unimaginable destruction if provoked. Humanity began to understand the truth slowly. The alien mother had come not to conquer, not to enslave, but to repay something long ago forgotten. She had given them warriors, protectors, and companions, but her gift came with a challenge. Humanity must prove itself worthy of it. The daughters were not merely soldiers, they were mirrors, reflecting the strengths, weaknesses, and potential of those who would learn to trust them. In secret councils, leaders argued. Was this a blessing or a curse? Could humanity survive the presence of beings so powerful? Was the debt a warning in disguise? Meanwhile, ordinary people marveled at the daughters, following their every move, fascinated by their grace, their speed, and their unspoken strength. And always, the mother watched. Her decision to give her daughters was final, but how humanity would respond, how they would rise or fall, remained uncertain. She had done her part. Now the fate of her debt and the legacy of her gift rested in human hands. That night, as the sun set over the cities and oceans, the daughters gathered atop mountains, deserts, and forests, silently observing the world they would soon protect. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light of 1,000 stars, and somewhere in the depths of the universe the alien mother whispered to herself, almost like a prayer, "May they honor the debt." The world had barely begun to understand the alien mother's presence when the first of her daughters touched down on Earth. They did not arrive in ships, nor did they announce themselves with loud proclamations. Instead, they came like shadows woven from starlight, appearing silently in the forests, deserts, and mountains across the planet. Each landing left a faint shimmer in the air, a ripple of energy that humans could feel even before they saw it. The first to be seen was a figure standing atop a cliff overlooking a vast ocean. Her hair seemed to flow like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed with a light that made the waves sparkle. She looked over the horizon, her posture calm yet commanding. No human dared approach her. From hundreds of meters away, soldiers watched in silence, their weapons trembling in their hands. Civilians hid behind rocks and trees, peering cautiously, unable to believe the figure before them was real. One brave scientist, Dr. Elena Morales, stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm," she called, her voice shaking. The daughter's gaze fell on her, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. The glow in the alien's eyes softened, and a subtle vibration pulsed in the air like a heartbeat. Then, without a word, the daughter extended her hand. A small holographic map appeared in the air, showing the locations of other daughters and the areas of Earth they were meant to inhabit. It was a silent way of introducing themselves, and yet, the message was clear. They were here to observe, to learn, and to protect. But they were not to be underestimated. As days passed, more daughters arrived. Some appeared in bustling cities, standing silently atop skyscrapers, their forms reflecting the sunlight in dazzling patterns. Others emerged in the deserts, moving like shadows among the dunes, their speed so fast that humans often saw them as blurs. Mountains became their vantage points, forests their sanctuaries. Wherever they went, they left an impression, a mixture of awe, fear, and wonder. Humanity struggled to understand them. Governments called emergency meetings, debating whether to attack or negotiate. The daughters did not respond to traditional communication. They did not speak, yet their actions communicated volumes. They helped prevent natural disasters, intervened to stop accidents, and sometimes, simply by being present, inspired humans to act more carefully, more wisely. In one small town, a wildfire threatened to destroy a village. Panic spread as flames consumed the dry grass and trees. Suddenly, a daughter appeared. She raised her arms, and a wave of energy radiated from her, extinguishing the fire in seconds. The villagers fell to their knees, crying in relief and fear. How could a single being wield such power? And yet she did not stay. She disappeared before anyone could approach, leaving only the memory of her presence. Not all humans welcomed them. Some saw the daughters as threats, dangerous weapons sent by an unknown alien power. Groups formed to track them, sometimes trying to capture one for study or leverage. These attempts were quickly thwarted. The daughters were swift, intelligent, and always one step ahead. No weapon, no trap, no human cunning could catch them. Their movements were precise, almost as if they knew exactly how every human would react before it happened. Amid this tension, the alien mother remained in orbit, silent and watchful. She had entrusted her daughters to humanity, but she also knew that humans were unpredictable. Trust would not be earned easily. Fear, greed, and curiosity would test the bond she had tried to forge. Yet she had faith. The daughters were more than warriors. They were teachers, guardians, and mirrors reflecting humanity's potential. Slowly, humans began to notice patterns. The daughters were not randomly scattered. They seemed drawn to places of conflict or need. Villages threatened by natural disasters, cities facing crime or unrest, even areas with social tension. Wherever humans struggled, a daughter would appear. often silently intervening in ways humans could barely understand. In the skies, a subtle message formed. The daughters were preparing humanity for something larger, something beyond Earth. Humans were beginning to see that the alien mother's debt was not a gift of convenience, but a responsibility, a chance to rise above their weaknesses and prove themselves capable of survival in a universe that could be cruel and unforgiving. And yet, not all humans were ready. Doubt and suspicion festered in some hearts. Could they trust beings so powerful? Were the daughters truly allies, or was this all a trap? The alien mother had given them tools, but she had also given them choices. Humanity's response would determine whether the debt was honored or wasted. By the end of the week, the daughters had established their presence across the globe. They did not speak, but humans learned to read their intentions. They were teachers without words, guardians without chains, and a challenge without compromise. Humanity had seen the first glimpses of the power the alien mother had gifted them, and it was breathtaking and terrifying. Above all, one thing was clear. The daughters were not merely visitors. They were part of humanity now. They would shape the world, challenge the people, and force humans to confront what it meant to be strong, united, and worthy of the universe's mysteries. And somewhere in orbit, the alien mother watched, her expression unreadable. She had repaid part of her debt, but the true test had only begun. Humanity was on the threshold of a new era, one that would be defined not by fear but by courage, and by the choices they made when faced with beings who could change everything. The debt had been paid. But whether humanity would honor it, that was a story yet to unfold. The daughters had arrived and humanity was in awe, but admiration alone could not turn them into allies. They were powerful, yes, but their true strength would only be realized if humans learned to work with them. The alien mother had given a gift, but it came with a challenge. Humans had to prove themselves worthy of it. In a large, empty valley far from any city, the first official meeting between the daughters and human leaders took place. Soldiers, scientists, and government officials gathered, unsure of what to expect. Some held weapons, their grips tight with fear. Others carried notebooks ready to record every detail. And above them, the daughters hovered silently, observing. The first lesson began without words. One daughter moved toward a training field filled with obstacles, walls, ditches, and simulated hazards. She leapt over barriers effortlessly, her movements smooth and precise, faster than any human could follow. Humans attempted to mimic her, fumbling and stumbling, realizing just how far behind they were. "They are testing us," muttered General Harris, a veteran of many wars. His voice trembled slightly, not from fear but from awe. "Not just our skills, but our patience and understanding." Days turned into weeks as training continued. The daughters did not teach in a conventional sense. There were no lectures, no manuals. Instead, they demonstrated, and humans learned by observation, repetition, and trial. A soldier who failed to lift a heavy beam while avoiding a simulated laser would see the daughter complete the task in seconds. He would then try again, adapting and learning from his mistakes. Yet training was not without tension. Some humans resented the daughter's superior abilities, feeling humiliated in their presence. Arguments broke out between soldiers and civilians. "They are not here to help us. They are here to show us how weak we are," one officer shouted during a particularly heated session. The daughters did not respond to anger. They simply continued, their presence commanding respect without needing words. One day, a group of daughters took the humans to the mountains. Here they introduced the first trial that went beyond physical strength. The mountains were treacherous, filled with hidden crevices and sudden drops. The daughters guided humans not with speech but through gestures, showing how to read the environment, anticipate danger, and trust their instincts. Slowly, humans began to adapt. They learned to move faster, think smarter, and rely on teamwork. The daughters had a way of revealing weaknesses gently yet firmly, pushing humans to discover their potential. By observing the daughters, humans realized that survival depended not only on strength, but also on awareness, courage, and unity. However, the alien mother had planned more than physical training. The daughters were also teachers of strategy. One evening, during a simulated battle exercise, the daughters revealed their combat techniques. Humans struggled at first. Their old tactics were slow, predictable, and outdated. But the daughters encouraged creativity, showing that sometimes speed and clever thinking mattered more than raw power. As humans grew stronger, a sense of unity began to form. Soldiers learned to trust civilians, scientists learned to coordinate with warriors, and the daughters acted as a bridge between all of them. They were not just fighters. They were teachers, mentors, and mirrors reflecting what humans could become. Yet despite progress, unease lingered. One of the daughters paused during a training exercise, her eyes narrowing as if she sensed something far beyond the valley. Her posture stiffened, and she emitted a soft hum that vibrated in the air. Humans noticed but could not understand. The message was clear. A threat was coming, one that could test everything they had learned. The alien mother's debt had been repaid in part, but her gift carried responsibility. The daughters were here to prepare humanity, not only for survival but for confrontation with forces that humanity had never imagined. The world outside the training grounds seemed calm, but the daughters knew that peace was fragile. Something in the void of space was stirring, and soon humans would see the true danger lurking beyond their atmosphere. Back at the training grounds, the human leaders gathered. "We have learned a lot," said Dr. Morales, her notebook filled with observations. "But these daughters, they are not just soldiers. They are warnings. They are teachers. And I think they see more than we can even imagine." General Harris nodded, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "We may be learning from them, but the real test is yet to come. If what they sense is true, we'll face challenges that will demand every lesson they've taught us." Night fell over the valley, and the daughters stood silently, watching over the humans. Stars shimmered above, and the wind whispered through the trees. The daughters had become guardians, guides, and a bridge to the unknown. But even as humans began to trust them, the first shadows of the coming conflict stretched across the horizon. The trial was not over. The daughters had shown humanity what it meant to be stronger, smarter, and more united. Yet the world outside would soon demand not lessons, but courage. And when that day came, humans would need to rise or face destruction. The alien mother, observing from orbit, remained silent. She had given humans the means to survive. But the choices they made now would determine whether her debt had truly been honored or wasted. And somewhere in the shadows beyond Earth, a new presence stirred, watching the planet with eyes filled with curiosity and malice. The daughters' lessons would soon be tested in a way no training ground could prepare them for. Humanity had taken its first steps, but the universe was waiting. The valley had quieted after the long days of training, but the calm was only temporary. Far beyond Earth, a dark shape moved through the stars, a vessel unlike any human or daughter had ever seen. It was massive, black as a void, with jagged edges that seemed to absorb light. The alien mother had sensed it days before, but she did not act. She had prepared the daughters and humanity to face this moment, and now the test had begun. The first warning came at dawn. Cities on the eastern coast reported strange distortions in the sky, blurs of shadow that moved faster than anything imaginable. People screamed, pointing to the clouds, which were swirling unnaturally, almost as if the atmosphere itself was bending under pressure. The daughters were already aware. They rose from their positions across the planet, their forms glowing faintly with a soft golden light. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and terrifyingly calm. They did not speak. They did not need to. Humans watched wide-eyed as the daughters took positions between the threat and the people they had come to protect. Then, without warning, the attackers appeared. From the darkness of space, alien ships poured into Earth's atmosphere like a tidal wave. Their shapes were sharp and alien, with glowing red cores that pulsed like heartbeats. They moved as one, coordinated and deadly. Any human weapon aimed at them bounced harmlessly off their shields. Panic spread across cities and chaos erupted in the streets. The daughters acted instantly. One descended to a city under attack, her hands raised. Waves of energy radiated outward, dismantling the attacking ships mid-air with precision. Entire buildings shook as alien vessels exploded, sending debris flying, yet no human life was harmed. Another daughter intercepted a group of attackers approaching a military base. She moved so fast that to human eyes she was a blur, dismantling enemy craft with movements that seemed both fluid and impossible. Human soldiers tried to coordinate, but they were slow. fumbling with unfamiliar technology and unpredictable attacks. That's when the daughters began to integrate humans into the defense. "Follow my lead," one seemed to say without words. Soldiers watched her movements, learning in real time how to aim, maneuver, and think strategically under pressure. For the first time, humans and daughters fought as one. In the skies, the daughters displayed power humans had only begun to understand. One created a barrier of energy that blocked a fleet of enemy ships, while another used a combination of speed and force to push enemies back into orbit. Humans began to notice patterns, realizing that the daughters' movements were not chaotic but calculated, designed to protect the greatest number of people while minimizing casualties. On the ground, civilians were evacuated under the daughters' silent guidance. One daughter appeared in the midst of a burning city, lifting vehicles and debris with her mind to create safe passageways for humans fleeing the destruction. Children clung to her, sensing her protection without fear. She turned to them, eyes glowing warmly before disappearing into the shadows to continue the battle. Despite their power, the daughters were not invincible. A massive enemy ship descended near a major city, releasing smaller fighters in swarms. Even the daughters struggled to contain them all. Human pilots, inspired by the daughters' tactics, joined the fight. They flew in coordinated formations, learning quickly to anticipate both the daughters and the enemy's movements. It was chaos, but it was also a lesson in unity, courage, and adaptation. Back in orbit, the alien mother observed quietly. She had given humans and daughters the means to fight, but she knew the battle's outcome would depend on more than just power. It depended on trust, teamwork, and the willingness to act without hesitation. Hours passed, and slowly the tide began to turn. The daughters, working in perfect synchrony with humans, began to push the alien fleet back. Each victory was small but meaningful. A city saved, a squadron defeated, a civilian life protected. The humans were learning, adapting, and proving that they could rise to the challenge. But the alien fleet was not done. From the shadows of space, a massive vessel descended, larger and more terrifying than anything before. Its core pulsed with energy, and the air itself seemed to shiver under its presence. The daughters sensed it immediately. They paused, forming a protective circle around the humans and cities, their light intensifying as if preparing for something beyond the ordinary battle. The alien mother's message was clear. This was only the beginning. Humanity had survived the first wave, learned the first lessons, and faced the first trial. But the universe would demand more. The daughters had shown humans the strength they could achieve. But the true test, the one that would decide whether humanity could honor the debt, was still ahead. As the enormous ship loomed over the planet, humanity watched, hearts pounding, realizing that the daughters were not only guardians but also guides into a dangerous, infinite universe. And in that moment, the humans understood a truth they could never forget. The alien mother's gift was not just about protection, it was about transformation. They were being shown what it meant to rise, to fight, and to become worthy of survival in a galaxy that did not forgive weakness. The first battle had ended, but the war for humanity's place in the stars was only beginning. The first battle had ended, but the victory felt fragile. Cities were damaged, skies still flickered with strange energy, and the humans who had survived knew that what they had faced was only the beginning. The alien fleet had retreated, but it left behind a warning, a shadow over the planet, a reminder that the universe was far bigger and far more dangerous than humanity had ever imagined. The daughters had remained, their glowing forms standing silently among humans, watching, protecting, and preparing for what was next. Even now, humans could feel their power radiating through the land, a constant reminder that survival would demand courage, unity, and adaptation. In the weeks that followed, reports of new alien activity reached Earth. Small scouting vessels appeared at the edges of the solar system, observing silently, testing humanity's defenses. Each sighting brought panic but also resolve. Humans began to work with the daughters more closely, learning to read patterns, anticipate movements, and make decisions under pressure. Training intensified. No longer were humans learning just basic combat skills. They were now learning strategy, communication, and foresight. The daughters guided them, sometimes silently placing them in scenarios that seemed simple at first but required quick thinking and teamwork to succeed. Soldiers learned to trust scientists. Civilians learned to coordinate with warriors, and every human involved discovered strengths they had never known existed. One night, Dr. Morales observed a group of daughters in the mountains, studying humans navigating a complex terrain filled with hidden dangers. She noticed that the daughters were not just teaching survival, they were shaping humans to think like them, to anticipate threats before they appeared, and to act with precision. "They're making us part of their world," she whispered to herself, "not just teaching us, transforming us." Yet the daughters' vigilance revealed something disturbing. The alien scouts were not acting alone. They were connected to a larger force, one that seemed organized, intelligent, and merciless. The scouts were probing, testing weaknesses, and sending information back to their command. The daughters' actions slowed them, but humans could sense that this was only the beginning of something much larger. General Harris convened a meeting with both military and civilian leaders. The daughters hovered silently around the room, their presence commanding respect. "We've survived the first attack," Harris said, voice steady but grave. "But make no mistake, the enemies will return. And next time they will be stronger, faster, and more coordinated. We need to be ready." Dr. Morales nodded. "We've learned much from the daughters, but we are only scratching the surface. Their lessons aren't just about fighting, they're about seeing the bigger picture. We have to adapt or we won't survive." Training shifted again. Humans began to conduct exercises alongside the daughters in simulated battles against alien tactics. These exercises forced humans to make rapid decisions, work as one unit, and trust instincts they never knew they had. The daughters encouraged them, guided them, and sometimes corrected them in ways so subtle that humans barely noticed until hours later, when they realized what had changed. Meanwhile, the alien scouts became bolder. They started probing closer to cities, sometimes appearing in groups to test defenses. Every encounter was a warning and a lesson. Humans began to recognize patterns in the attacks, learning when to defend, when to retreat, and when to strike back. Each success, no matter how small, built confidence and a new sense of unity. Then one evening, a distress signal reached Earth. A distant colony in the asteroid belt had been attacked by alien forces, and survivors were trapped. The daughters moved immediately, and for the first time, humans were asked to accompany them beyond the planet. Spaceships launched, humans and daughters working together seamlessly. The journey was tense. Humans felt fear, exhilaration, and awe as they followed the daughters through the void of space. They saw how the daughters navigated dangers with precision, reading subtle shifts in energy that humans could not yet comprehend. When they arrived at the colony, the scene was worse than anyone had imagined. Buildings shattered, fires burning, and the enemy closing in. The daughters acted swiftly, using a combination of energy fields, speed, and intelligence to protect the survivors. Humans followed their lead, learning to fight strategically, moving in sync with the daughters' actions. Together, they managed to repel the attackers and evacuate the colonists. After the battle, General Harris looked at the humans who had fought alongside the daughters. "We are learning fast," he said, pride in his voice. "But this is just the start. The real challenge is still out there, and when it comes, we will need every lesson, every skill, every ounce of courage we have." Dr. Morales added quietly, "The daughters didn't come to protect us forever. They came to prepare us. And now, we're starting to see what that truly means." The alien mother watched from orbit, silent and patient. She had repaid her debt, and now the universe was testing humanity's worth. The daughters had taught them courage, unity, and strategy, but the coming trials would demand more. Far beyond Earth, the shadow of the enemy fleet grew larger, waiting for the moment to strike again. Humanity had survived the first battle, learned the lessons of trust, and begun to rise. But the universe would soon demand that they prove themselves, worthy not just of survival, but of their place among the stars. The immediate danger had passed, but Earth and its colonies were on edge. The alien scouts had retreated, but the knowledge that a larger fleet lurked in the darkness left humans restless. Cities were rebuilt, military installations strengthened, and humans trained relentlessly alongside the daughters. Yet a quiet unease lingered in the air. Something was being hidden, something vital that the daughters themselves seemed reluctant to reveal. Dr. Morales had begun noticing subtle signs. While the daughters guided humans in combat and strategy, they often paused to look at the stars as if seeking something or someone. Their gazes were filled with intensity, a mix of warning and longing. It was clear they had more knowledge than they shared, knowledge that could change humanity's understanding of the universe. One evening, a strange signal appeared in the communications network. It was faint, almost imperceptible but unmistakable, a structured code that was not human in origin. The daughters immediately reacted, their forms glowing brighter as they traced the signal's source. Humans watched in awe as the daughters moved with purpose, faster than anyone could follow, deciphering a message that humans could barely comprehend. The message came from an unknown faction in a distant sector of the galaxy, an ancient alliance that had been monitoring Earth for centuries. They were not like the attacking fleet. Their tone was cautious, but urgent. They offered assistance, technology and knowledge, but also a warning. The enemy that had attacked Earth was only a part of a much larger threat. This was not a mere invasion. It was a campaign, and it had been planned for decades. The daughters explained what humans could understand in simple terms. The galaxy was divided among powerful civilizations, many of which had ignored Earth until the planet showed signs of growth, intelligence, and adaptability. Humans, the daughter said, had the potential to become more than just survivors. They could become equals in a vast, dangerous galaxy. But to do that, they needed allies. Dr. Morales and General Harris convened a council with other human leaders. The daughters were present, silent but commanding attention. "We are not alone," Harris said, breaking the tension in the room. "The galaxy is bigger than we imagined, and some of the beings out there, they want to help us. But we have to act wisely." The council debated cautiously. Accepting alien allies was risky. Could they be trusted? Were there hidden motives? But the daughters' presence reassured them. Every time a human expressed doubt, the daughters would respond, not with words, but with actions. A simple gesture, a protective stance, a demonstration of insight, enough to remind humans that they had guidance but also that responsibility rested with them. Plans were made to establish contact with the distant alliance. Human diplomats, scientists, and soldiers were sent on reconnaissance missions to learn more. Guided by the daughters, they traveled through space in sleek ships provided by the alien mother, moving cautiously but with purpose. Along the way, they encountered strange worlds, some teeming with life, others barren and harsh. Each experience taught them resilience, patience, and the importance of observation. During one mission, humans discovered a hidden archive on a remote asteroid, a vast collection of records about galactic history, ancient wars, and the enemy forces that had begun targeting Earth. Among the data was a revelation that shook humanity to its core. The alien mother had not merely saved them out of debt or curiosity. Earth had been under observation because humans had a rare potential, a spark that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The daughters confirmed this quietly. Humans were not just students or warriors. They were a species with untapped potential, capable of growth far beyond what they had imagined. But this potential came with risk. The more humans advanced, the more they would attract the attention of those who sought to dominate or destroy them. Back on Earth, training intensified. Humans now learned advanced tactics, combining the daughters' physical abilities with strategy, diplomacy, and long-range coordination. The daughters continued to act as mentors, but they also began to step back slightly, allowing humans to make decisions independently. Mistakes were made, lessons were learned, and confidence grew. Then, one night, the daughters gathered the humans for a private meeting. Their forms glowed brighter than usual, a sign that something urgent was at hand. They revealed that the enemy fleet was regrouping, preparing for a major offensive that would test humanity's strength, unity, and courage like never before. The daughters emphasized one crucial point. Humans were no longer just the protected. They were active participants in their survival. Every decision, every strategy, and every act of courage would shape the outcome of the coming battles. Humans were being transformed into something greater, and the galaxy would soon take notice. The alien mother remained silent, observing from orbit. Her debt had been repaid, her gift given, and now she watched as humans learned, adapted, and grew. The daughters were her instruments, guiding humanity toward a destiny that was theirs to claim, but only if they were brave enough to rise. In the darkness of space, the distant enemy prepared, unaware that humanity had allies, potential, and courage beyond what they had imagined. The coming confrontation would be brutal, but humans were no longer the same species that had cowered under the first attack. They had been shaped by the daughters, trained by trials, and awakened to a purpose greater than survival. The universe was watching, the stage was set, and humanity was ready to step into the unknown. The calm before the storm was deceptive. Earth and its colonies had rebuilt, defenses strengthened, and humans trained under the guidance of the daughters. Yet every human, from the youngest pilot to the oldest scientist, could feel the tension in the air. Something was coming, something massive, something that would test everything they had learned. The alien fleet returned, larger than anyone had imagined. Ships of every shape and size moved through the void with deadly precision, black silhouettes against the stars. They came not just to attack, they came to conquer. Communication attempts were met with silence. The enemy showed no mercy, no negotiation, only the intent to destroy or dominate. The daughters rose into the skies, their golden light piercing the darkness like swords of hope. Humans took positions alongside them, piloting ships, coordinating defenses, and readying strategies learned over months of intense training. For the first time, humanity's courage was fully visible. No longer timid observers, they were warriors standing beside legends. The battle began with sudden, blinding chaos. Alien ships swooped over cities and military bases. Explosions lit the skies, and the sound of energy weapons shook the ground. The daughters moved with unmatched speed and precision, protecting civilians, disarming enemy fire, and guiding human pilots through deadly maneuvers. Human ingenuity and courage shone. Pilots executed coordinated attacks, inspired by the daughters' movements. Soldiers on the ground used traps and strategies designed in collaboration with the daughters. For every attack the enemy launched, humanity responded with unity, adaptability, and relentless determination. One daughter soared above the capital city, creating a massive energy shield that deflected waves of alien fire. Below, humans guided evacuation convoys, moving citizens out of danger while fighting back the enemy. The teamwork was seamless, humans adapting in real time, learning from their allies, and proving that their species had evolved beyond expectation. Then the enemy revealed its true weapon, a colossal flagship, bristling with energy cannons advancing slowly but unstoppable. Its approach caused shockwaves across orbit, shaking satellites and space stations. Even the daughters paused, forming a protective barrier around Earth's population. Humans watched, hearts pounding, knowing that this single ship could devastate entire cities if left unchecked. Dr. Morales and General Harris coordinated with the daughters. "We need to focus our efforts," Harris shouted over the comms. "Divide their forces, isolate the flagship, and target its energy core." The daughters nodded without words. They led the charge, breaking the enemy lines with blinding speed and precision. Human pilots followed, executing daring maneuvers and coordinated strikes. The enemy ships fell one by one, but the flagship continued to advance, its shields glowing, its energy cannons ready to fire. Then, a plan formed. One daughter called for humans to form a specialized strike team. Together they would infiltrate the flagship, disable its defenses, and destroy its core from within. It was a dangerous mission, likely a one-way trip, but humanity had come too far to back down. Courage and determination replaced fear. The strike team launched, dodging fire and weaving through debris. Inside the flagship, humans and daughters worked together seamlessly. They moved as one unit, dismantling defenses, sabotaging systems, and finally reaching the core. One daughter focused her energy to contain the power while humans set charges to destroy it. The explosion shook the ship, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Alien forces faltered, chaos spreading through their ranks. The flagship's destruction was a turning point. The remaining enemy ships, leaderless and confused, were quickly overwhelmed by the combined might of humans and daughters. By the end of the battle, the skies cleared. Earth had survived. Cities stood battered but unbroken. Humans had fought bravely, not just surviving but proving their potential. The daughters stood silently, their eyes reflecting pride and relief. For the first time, humans felt it too. The realization that they had become something greater, something worthy of the galaxy's attention. The alien mother observed quietly from orbit, her presence a silent acknowledgement. Humanity had risen to the challenge. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had earned not just her debt, but a place among the stars, ready to learn, grow, and face whatever came next. Even as humans celebrated, they knew this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, filled with unknown dangers and greater challenges, but for the first time humans did not fear it, they were ready. With courage, wisdom, and the guidance of the daughters, humanity had become more than a species. They had become a force to be reckoned with. The ultimate confrontation had ended. The war was not over, but humanity had taken its first true step into greatness. The smoke of battle had cleared. Cities still bore scars, and the oceans and skies carried the remnants of the alien assault. Yet, for the first time, humans felt a sense of calm, of achievement, and of hope that reached far beyond the borders of their planet. Humanity had faced a threat that once seemed insurmountable, and had not just survived but grown stronger. The daughters hovered silently above Earth, their lights soft but steady. Humans gathered to watch them, their hearts filled with awe. For months, the daughters had guided, protected, and trained them. Now their presence was not just protective, it was almost ceremonial. It was a recognition of what humans had become. Dr. Morales walked alongside General Harris through the recovering capital. "Look at them," she said quietly, gesturing to people cleaning streets, repairing buildings, and helping one another. "They're not just surviving, they're building something greater." Harris nodded, a rare smile breaking his usually stern face. "We've learned to fight together, to think together, to trust each other, and now, we've learned we can stand among the stars." The daughters approached the leaders. Without words, they shared a vision, a glimpse of possibilities. Humans saw colonies thriving in distant orbits, new alliances forming, and a future where they could explore the galaxy not as prey, but as equals. It was more than hope, it was potential. The alien mother watched from orbit, proud but distant. Her debt had been repaid, and she had given humanity a gift that went beyond the daughters, the chance to rise, to evolve, and to claim their place in the universe. But she also left a warning unspoken. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges. Growth came with risk, and only through courage, unity, and wisdom could humans continue to thrive. Communications from the distant Galactic Alliance arrived once more. This time the message was welcoming. They had observed humanity's battle and the way the daughters guided them. They acknowledged humanity as a species capable of greatness, ready to participate in the larger network of civilizations. It was a recognition unlike anything humans had ever received, a sign that the universe now saw them as more than survivors. Humans began to rebuild faster and smarter. Cities rose, new technologies were implemented, and the lessons learned from the daughters were integrated into everyday life. People shared stories of bravery, sacrifice, and growth, and those stories inspired others to act with courage, kindness, and determination. The daughters remained on Earth for a time, continuing to guide humanity in subtle ways, preparing them for the challenges ahead. They taught humans not only how to fight, but also how to think, adapt, and dream. Humans were no longer dependent, they were partners, ready to face the unknown with confidence. One evening, standing on a hill overlooking the capital, Dr. Morales watched a daughter take flight, her golden glow reflecting in the twilight sky. "They gave us more than protection," she murmured. "They gave us the chance to see what we can truly become." General Harris joined her silently, watching humans moving with purpose, rebuilding, training, exploring. "A new dawn is here," he said, "and it's ours to shape." Far above, the stars seemed brighter. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and challenges yet to come. But humanity had changed. No longer just a fragile species on a small planet, they had learned courage, resilience, and the power of unity. They had proven that even against overwhelming odds they could rise, adapt, and thrive. And so, as Earth recovered and humans looked to the stars, a new chapter began. The daughters had completed their mission, the alien mother's debt had been repaid, and humanity stood at the threshold of greatness. The galaxy waited. and now humanity was ready.